Tell me how your legs feel when you first get out of bed in the morning, before you have walked around, before they have loosened up, that stiffness, that reluctance to move, those first few steps that feel like your legs are not quite yours yet. Most doctors will tell you this is arthritis, or they will tell you it is part of aging. I'm Dr. Laura Candy, and I need to tell you that doctors have been wrong about morning leg stiffness for decades. Research published in the Journal of Musculoskeletal Research found that in adults over 60 without diagnosed arthritis, morning leg stiffness originates primarily from fascial dehydration and incomplete nighttime muscle repair, not joint inflammation. Your legs are stiff in the morning because your fascia dried out overnight and your muscles did not finish repairing while you slept. This has a nutritional solution, and it works while you sleep. I am Dr. Laura Candy, physician, public health researcher, and for 15 years of clinical practice, I have been asking patients with morning leg stiffness a question that their previous physicians almost never asked. Do you have diagnosed arthritis? The majority of the time, the answer is no. They have a diagnosis of arthritis suspicion. They have been told it is probably that. They have been given that explanation without the investigation that would confirm or rule it out. 15 years of clinical practice showed me that most morning leg stiffness in adults over 60 is not arthritis. It is a soft tissue problem, and soft tissue problems respond to nutrition in ways that joints simply do not. Harvard's research on fascial tissue aging confirmed what the Journal of Musculoskeletal Research data established. Fascia is not inert connective tissue. It is metabolically active. It requires fluid, collagen building blocks, and an absence of inflammatory signal to maintain its elasticity overnight. When those three conditions are not met, the fascial matrix surrounding each leg muscle tightens as you sleep. And when you stand up in the morning, that tightened fascia resists the stretch your movement demands. Those first painful steps are not your joints. They are your fascia. Today, that changes. Think of it this way. Every muscle in your leg is wrapped in a layer of connective tissue called fascia. This tissue is not a passive covering. It is a dynamic matrix that requires fluid to stay elastic, collagen fibers to maintain its structure, and anti-inflammatory conditions to avoid thickening. During the day, movement keeps fluid circulating through the fascial layers. When you lie still at night, that circulation slows. Over 6 to 8 hours of sleep, the fascial tissue loses hydration. By morning, it has stiffened. At the same time, your muscles are supposed to be repairing overnight. Clinical studies showed that muscle repair during sleep depends on deep sleep quality. Specifically, the slow-wave sleep stage produces a growth hormone pulse that drives tissue restoration throughout the body, including the leg muscles that bear your weight all day. When sleep is fragmented or shallow, the repair pulse is blunted. Micro-damage that accumulated during the previous day remains unaddressed. That unrepaired tissue adds its own resistance to movement in the morning. Two separate overnight failures producing the same morning symptom. Neither one is arthritis, and neither one is addressed by the standard prescription of anti-inflammatory medication and rest, which treats the consequence rather than the cause. And at the end of this video, I am going to reveal a fruit that most adults over 60 eat for breakfast without knowing that eating it the night before instead would produce a measurably different result in the morning. Research published in Phytomedicine in 2020 documented the mechanism. The research team was not studying morning stiffness. They found the relevant result while investigating a different application entirely. And once you understand what this fruit does inside the fascial tissue overnight, you will not think of it as a breakfast food again. Stay until the end. If you are watching this and you are over 60, pay attention to every word coming next. The first food is bone broth, or collagen peptides, and I want to explain the mechanism precisely, because there is a specific molecular reason why this food addresses fascial dehydration in a way that simply drinking more water does not. Fascia is primarily composed of collagen type 2 fibers suspended in a proteoglycan matrix. That matrix acts as a water-retaining gel. It keeps the collagen fibers separated, lubricated, and elastic. As the body ages, the production of both collagen and the proteoglycan molecules that form the hydration matrix slows. The fascia does not just dehydrate because of overnight immobility. It dehydrates because the structural material that holds water in place is being produced at a declining rate. Bone broth provides hydroxyproline and glycine, the two primary amino acids required for collagen synthesis. Collagen peptides from bovine or marine sources provide the same building blocks in a more concentrated, pre-digested form. When consumed in the evening, these amino acids reach peak blood concentration during the first hours of sleep, which aligns with the period of peak connective tissue repair activity. This was confirmed by Tufts University research, examining collagen peptide supplementation in adults over 60 with connective tissue symptoms. Participants consuming collagen peptides showed improved connective tissue hydration markers and reduced morning stiffness scores over 12 weeks compared to controls. Think of it this way: drinking water addresses general dehydration. Collagen peptides address the structural matrix that determines whether the fascia can hold water in the first place. You can be fully hydrated and still have dehydrated fascia if the proteoglycan matrix has degraded. This is why drinking more water does not fix morning stiffness for most people. 1 cup of high-quality bone broth or 10 to 15 grams of collagen peptides dissolved in warm water 1 hour before bed. The warmth promotes absorption. The timing aligns the amino acid peak with the early sleep repair window. The second food is turmeric combined with black pepper, and the mechanism here targets the second driver of fascial stiffness, which is inflammation inside the fascial tissue itself. Fascia contains a network of sensory nerves and inflammatory cells. When the body experiences chronic low-grade inflammation, those cells become persistently active inside the fascial matrix. They release cytokines that trigger fibroblast activity, causing the fascia to deposit additional collagen in a disorganized pattern. That disorganized collagen is stiffer than the healthy organized matrix. It does not stretch as elastically, and it contributes significantly to the morning stiffness that most people attribute to arthritis. Curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, inhibits NF-κB, the transcription factor that drives most inflammatory cytokine production in fascial tissue. Clinical studies showed that curcumin suppression of NF-κB activity reduces the inflammatory fibroblast response that leads to disorganized collagen deposition. But here is the critical detail that most people following turmeric advice miss entirely. Curcumin has extraordinarily poor oral bioavailability when consumed alone. Less than 1% reaches systemic circulation. Piperine, the active compound in black pepper, inhibits the intestinal enzyme that degrades curcumin before it is absorbed. The combination of curcumin with piperine increases curcumin bioavailability by approximately 2,000%. The research is specific. Turmeric without black pepper produces negligible systemic effect. Think of it this way: turmeric alone is like locking a key inside the house. Turmeric with black pepper is the key and the lock. The combination is the intervention. The individual ingredient is not. 1 teaspoon of turmeric combined with 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper with a fat-containing meal in the evening. Curcumin is fat-soluble and requires dietary fat for absorption. The black pepper and the fat together maximize the systemic delivery. Now, those two foods address the fascial structural hydration and the inflammatory environment that causes disorganized collagen deposition. That covers the fascia side of the morning stiffness equation. But here is where the picture becomes more complete and where most approaches to this problem stop short. Because the fascia does not exist in isolation. The muscles inside it need to repair overnight. And if the sleep conditions do not support the repair window, the fascia can be perfectly hydrated and still stiffen around muscles that are carrying unrepaired micro-damage into the morning. The third food addresses the quality of the overnight repair window directly. The third food is Montmorency tart cherry juice, and the mechanism involves two simultaneous contributions that distinguish this food from other anti-inflammatory sources. The first contribution is melatonin. Montmorency cherries contain a measurably higher melatonin concentration than other cherry varieties. Melatonin does not simply help you fall asleep. It specifically promotes the transition into slow-wave sleep, which is the stage where the growth hormone pulse that drives muscle repair occurs. Without adequate melatonin signaling, the body spends less time in slow-wave sleep and more time in lighter stages where the GH pulse is absent. The second contribution is anthocyanins. The anthocyanins in tart cherry reduce the inflammatory cytokines that accumulate in muscle tissue from daily physical stress. Reduced inflammatory load in the muscle before sleep means less substrate for the disorganized repair response that leaves muscles sore and stiff in the morning. Clinical studies showed that Montmorency tart cherry juice consumed before bed reduced morning muscle stiffness and soreness scores significantly in adults over 60 engaged in ordinary daily activity, not athletic training. The effect was attributed to both the melatonin-mediated sleep quality improvement and the anthocyanin-mediated overnight inflammation reduction working simultaneously. 8 ounces of unsweetened Montmorency tart cherry juice consumed 30 to 45 minutes before bed. Unsweetened. The sweetened versions contain added sugar that disrupts blood glucose overnight and indirectly impairs slow-wave sleep quality. The fourth food is a combination, almonds and pumpkin seeds, and the mechanism here returns to the sleep quality side of the equation, but targets it through a different pathway than the tart cherry juice. Magnesium is the mineral most directly involved in regulating the depth and duration of slow-wave sleep in adults over 60. When magnesium is adequate at the cellular level, the NMDA receptors that regulate sleep stage transitions allow the brain to move efficiently into and remain in deep sleep. When magnesium is insufficient, those transitions are disrupted. The brain spends more time in light sleep stages, the GH pulse is reduced, muscle repair is incomplete. Think of it this way. The tart cherry juice opens the door to the slow-wave sleep stage. Magnesium keeps the door open long enough for the repair work to be completed. One without the other produces partial results. 1 ounce of raw almonds and 1 ounce of raw pumpkin seeds consumed in the evening with the collagen peptide drink. The combination provides approximately 220 milligrams of magnesium in a form that reaches the central nervous system effectively. Not roasted, not salted. Raw, because processing reduces magnesium content. If you are watching this and you are over 60 and you have been accepting morning leg stiffness as your normal, pay attention to what comes next, because here is the layer of this problem that most people never encounter in any discussion of morning stiffness. During the night, even when sleep is good and repair is occurring, the metabolic process of tissue repair generates byproducts. Lactic acid from residual metabolic activity accumulates in the fascial space. Proteoglycan debris from damaged connective tissue accumulates in the same space. By morning, these byproducts have been sitting in the fascial matrix for 6 to 8 hours. They are not removed during sleep the way active movement removes them during the day. They thicken the fascial fluid. They increase the resistance to movement that you feel in those first morning steps. The fifth food addresses this specific overnight accumulation directly, and 15 years of clinical practice showed me that this is the intervention most people never hear about, because it requires understanding not just what the food does in general, but what it does at night specifically when consumed before sleep. Before I give you the final reveal, check that you are subscribed. Every video this week covers a different leg warning signal. Tomorrow covers something almost everyone over 60 has felt, but few have investigated. Do not miss it. The fifth food is pineapple, specifically fresh pineapple consumed the night before, not at breakfast. Pineapple contains an enzyme called bromelain. Bromelain is a proteolytic enzyme. It breaks down proteins and protein-based compounds. In the context of overnight fascial accumulation, bromelain acts specifically on 2 compounds, the proteoglycan debris that accumulates from connective tissue turnover overnight, and the protein matrix that holds lactic acid in the fascial space. When bromelain is present in the system during the overnight hours, it begins breaking down these accumulated compounds. By morning, less debris has accumulated in the fascial tissue. The fascial fluid is less viscous. Movement encounters less resistance. The first steps of the morning feel different. Research published in Phytomedicine in 2020 examining bromelain and connective tissue clearance found that bromelain consumption produced measurably reduced connective tissue stiffness and debris markers when timed to the overnight period. The research team was examining bromelain in a post-surgical recovery context. The overnight fascial clearance finding emerged from the timing analysis of when bromelain effects were strongest relative to consumption time. Evening consumption before the overnight accumulation period produced greater fascial clearance than morning consumption after accumulation had already occurred. Think of it this way. The collagen peptides rebuild the fascial hydration matrix. The turmeric and pepper reduce the inflammatory fibroblast response. The tart cherry opens the deep sleep window. The magnesium from almonds and pumpkin seeds keeps it open, and the bromelain from pineapple clears the overnight debris before it thickens the fascial environment that all the other interventions are trying to maintain. Think of it this way. Bromelain consumed in the morning is a cleanup crew that arrives after the mess has already set. Bromelain consumed the night before is the crew that prevents the mess from accumulating in the first place. The timing is the intervention, not just the food. Most people who eat pineapple eat it in the morning. At that point, the overnight accumulation has already occurred. The bromelain is working on debris that has been sitting in the fascial tissue for 8 hours. It helps, but it is working retroactively. Consuming it the night before means the bromelain is present during the accumulation process, not after. And before the complete protocol, the sequence of these 5 foods is not arbitrary. Each one targets a specific phase of the overnight failure. Collagen peptides address structural dehydration during the first repair hours. Turmeric and pepper address the inflammatory environment before it activates overnight fibroblasts. Tart cherry juice initiates and deepens the slow-wave sleep window. Almonds and pumpkin seeds sustain the sleep quality through the repair peak. Pineapple clears the overnight debris before it thickens the fascial space. Each food targets a different phase of the same overnight process. That is why removing any single one of them leaves a gap. And the most important part is this. Here is the complete protocol, consistent with Mayo Clinic's nutritional approach to connective tissue health and sleep quality in adults over 60. 1 hour before bed, 1 cup of warm bone broth or 15 grams of collagen peptides dissolved in warm water. This is the fascial hydration primer for the overnight window. With a small fat-containing evening snack, 1 teaspoon of turmeric and 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. The fat can be as simple as a small amount of olive oil mixed in, or consumed with nuts. 45 minutes before bed, 8 ounces of unsweetened Montmorency tart cherry juice. This initiates the melatonin-mediated sleep transition. Same evening snack as the turmeric. 1 ounce of raw almonds and 1 ounce of raw pumpkin seeds. The magnesium in these seeds reaches its peak systemic level approximately 2 hours after consumption, aligning with the deep sleep stage. The night before, 2 to 3 slices of fresh pineapple, including pieces of the fibrous core where bromelain concentration is highest, not canned, not dried, fresh in the evening, so bromelain is active in the system during the overnight accumulation window. The protocol requires 4 to 6 weeks before expecting significant reduction in morning stiffness. Fascial rehydration and collagen matrix rebuilding are gradual processes. The sleep quality improvements from tart cherry and magnesium may produce noticeable changes in weeks 2 to 3. The fascial structural changes require 4 to 6 weeks. The red line is alcohol. Clinical studies showed that alcohol consumed within 3 hours of sleep reduces slow-wave sleep duration by up to 39%. The deep sleep window that all 5 of these foods are supporting is directly and immediately suppressed by alcohol. The protocol requires no alcohol within 3 hours of sleep, and ideally none at all during the 12-week intervention period. If this is the first time anyone has explained that morning leg stiffness is a soft tissue problem with an overnight nutritional solution, subscribe. I publish research-backed breakdowns like this every day this week. Drop your age in the comments. I read every single one. Tomorrow's video covers the one that stops most adults over 60 in their tracks, literally. The inability to climb stairs without stopping, burning, or gripping the rail. Most people attribute this to cardiovascular decline. The actual mechanism is mitochondrial, and the food that begins shifting it within 2 hours of consumption has been studied at the University of Exeter in one of the most well-designed exercise physiology trials of the past decade. Tomorrow, do not miss it.